preparedness is ready to, so she'll be coming on. I think we can start. We'll
call this meeting to order, please. And shall we begin with the approval of the minutes? And
I approve.
Okay, so a motion to approve is Tom and seconded by Malia. All in favor? That's a majority. It's approved. And now we can proceed to Curtis and our public safety report.
Good evening, everybody. Since our last meeting, as you can see, our students are back. There's definitely been an uptick in students just being on campus and some traffic. Definitely a lot more activity, a lot more calls for service for us on our end. As far as University Glen, not a lot going on in the community that affects the community, at least. There's been some domestic violence issues here and there, but those are all contained within the residences. I know last month somebody asked a question about motorcycle parking permits, and at this time we don't have a mechanism in place to do parking enforcement on motorcycles as far as permitting, because there needs to be a permitting system in place. I think either through CAM office or leasing office or somewhere that would actually give a motorcycle a permit, so we could actually enforce if they have a permit or not. We can still enforce other things like red curb, emergency curbs for parking disabled or things like that, but I don't think that's really been an issue. But other than that, does anybody have any questions for us or for me?
Yeah, Curtis, I have a question about parking enforcement. Should parking issues or go to parking enforcement, or can you deal with that and pass issues along? Or
usually like in the moment, like if there's you see a violation that you would like to have addressed.
Well, I just have a general comment. So I'll go through, I won't tell the whole story. Could parking enforcement make an effort to look at cars without permits that are parked along the large athletic field on weekends?
Which field are you talking about? You're talking about the basketball court?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's, I'm doing a lot of hiking nowadays, and I've just noticed a lot of higher number of cars now without park permits.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog park's pretty full. So I'm guessing we're having outsiders come in to use the dog park.
Okay. Yeah. So the dog park, basketball court area on weekends, check for parking permits. I could send that message along.
Yeah, they work weekends, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We typically have a parking officer assigned to shifts like patrol officers are. However, I mean, there might be times that they have a day off or something.
Yeah, late mornings would probably be a good time if they had to pick one time.
And I do know, being a resident up there, I do see sometimes, not saying that this is what's going on now, but I have seen residents that will drive to the dog park to go to the dog park and then get back in their car and drive back to their residence. So, but I'll put a request in for them to do some extra enforcement on the weekends.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would also like to thank the police department for putting the 25 mile an hour monitoring digital
Trailer
there. That's I appreciate that. That came just at a time when there were people who were beginning to comment that things were getting to move pretty quickly along Channel Islands, and it was like the next day there it was, and I thought, wow, okay, we're all on the same wavelength, so that's good.
Yeah, and we'll probably start more actively posting that up now that we have an increase in traffic as well.
And I have a question. Are the parking permits being enforced as they were before COVID now that the students are back? Are you enforcing everything like you were before, or is it still not really the same? Because I saw next door where someone said they got parking ticket, and I wasn't aware that they were enforcing parking passes at nighttime.
Yes, so parking enforcement is back to where it was pre-COVID. I know we worked with Jake and team with messaging started, I think, early summer, trying to push that message back out to all the residents, given a few months warning. But once the semester sort of got underway again, we officially were actively enforcing it.
Okay, thank you.
And if it's their first citation, I highly recommend them appealing it online on the company website. It's on the tickets, pmbonline.org, and they can explain why they got the citation and why they would like to have it, like to appeal it if they do it within 21 days.
Okay,
And I have a procedural question. I got asked the other day how parking enforcement knows when a car has in its current position for 72 hours. Do you
I believe normally,
know what procedures they follow to make that determination?
well, I know historically one of the ways is by drawing a small chalk line on one of the tires to show if it's been moved or not within the 72 hours. So that's one of the historical ways that we've done it. And then that way they can come back and check it after the 72 hours has passed.
Right now, didn't we get a court order that said you couldn't do that anymore?
I know that there is a court from it that's, I think it was from the 4th district, which doesn't actually have standing in the 9th. We're in the 9th district.
Okay.
So it wouldn't actually have a standing in our area, but I don't know if that's been changed recently or if that's what they're still doing, but I have heard of that case, but it's in a different Court of Appeals.
Okay, I suspect the person that asked me is aware of the ruling, and I can explain then that it was actually in a different district and therefore not enforceable at this point in California.
Yeah, and I don't know, I could, once I get done with my speech here, I could probably go and ask one of our parking officers that's working right now and maybe even type it back in the comments to you to give you an answer before them.
Or you can find me on the alley.
Okay. I personally don't do parking enforcement typically, so I don't have a
Yeah, well,
up-to-date
thanks.
answer.
I appreciate you asking the question for us. Anything else for Curtis? Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Is Maggie with us and ready?
I believe so.
Hi, everyone. I apologize. I don't know what's wrong with my figures on my presentation day. My camera was working perfectly earlier, and I don't know what's going on right now. It's not letting me show camera. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Which
So
can you see your screen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Just let us know which one you want, Maggie.
Okay, so in the search bar, so what I wanted to do was, thanks for having me tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Maggie Tugas, and I am the emergency manager here at CSU Channel Islands. I'm also, at the past 18 months, have been the COVID case compliance manager, which means I do a lot of the vaccine clinics, testing clinics, contact tracing, COVID support and investigation. So that's been the majority of my job pretty much for the last 18 months. So getting back into the swing of things with emergency management and evacuations. So for those of you that are new and haven't been familiar with this website, this is the csuci.edu webpage. And here you can find everything emergency management. In this page, if you type in the search bar, emergency management. So if you click on this link that takes you to the emergency management page, it'll take you to my page. So how many of you have ever seen this page before?
Yep.
Only a few? Okay. If you scroll down, you can see that we have a lot of campus resources here that would be at your advantage to look at these resources as well. So as you can see, we have the updated communicable disease plan that has to do with any communicable disease, including COVID. So if you're bored one night and you need to go to sleep, you might want to read it. We also have our building evacuation procedures right under that, that were updated in September 2020. Our emergency response and evacuation procedures for the whole campus, and then the evacuation plan for main campus and University Glen. So let's click on that link. So under the link where it says CSUCI Campus Evacuation Plan, you can click on that button, on that link, I'm sorry. And this brings you to our evacuation plan. So it gives you kind of an overview and a summary, executive summary of what the evacuation plan is and what it's for. And if you keep scrolling down, it'll give you the evacuation procedures in writing and tell you where and which streets to evacuate on. This is not only just for the campus, but it's for, of course, University Glen as well. Okay, you need to scroll down, Jake. So it talks about the evacuation routes, including University Glen. Okay, scroll down. And here are the maps. So you could actually print these maps out. Can you go back up, Jake, please? You can print these maps out, and that way you can see which areas of University Glen you would evacuate from. They can be enlarged. If you file save them and enlarge them, then you can print them out. So go ahead and go down. So we did 3 different sets of maps.
Maggie, could I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
That last map we were looking at, what was the vehicle count all about?
The what?
The vehicle count.
The vehicle count. At that point, it was when they did the analysis, how many vehicles they assumed would be coming out of University Glen.
4,300 vehicles?
Yes, at the time, yes. That does not include the new area that is supposed to be built.
And did that include the campus?
No, I believe that was, the vehicle count was for University Glen.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay, if you want to scroll down, Jake. So like I said, the routes that were given are pretty clear lines that you would be able to use. And like I said, if I advise you to print them out in case we do have an evacuation. Okay, and I think we're at the end of that plan. So also, the Ventura County Sheriff's Department did kind of a exercise last year up in University Glen where they used a new tool where they can track people that are possibly in their residences and notified people, especially those that shut in and those that might be disabled. They have to register, of course, so that they know where they are, but and help people evacuate in the event of an emergency or a fire. They also drove their vehicles through the Glen. I don't know if any of you heard it. And they used what they call a high-low siren. Have you heard of the high-low siren? No? Okay. So if we go back up and we can actually, I want to exit out of this map so I can show you where some of the other resources are. No, click back in. There you go. And scroll down. So we have, under all of these other resources, we also have the emergency response guide that is printed out for faculty, staff, and students, and that could also be used by University Glen. But some of our additional resources that would be beneficial to you. All things COVID would be under Ventura County Recovery. It's actually Ventura County Recovers, and it gives you all of the COVID information, COVID updates, where to get testing, where to get vaccines, etc. And then the Ventura County Emergency website. If you click into that website right now, it's a live updated website. It gives you all of the information that you would need for incident information, incident maps, cooling centers, and COVID information. What this website will also give you is that in the event of an emergency where University Glen and the campus would have to evacuate, there's going to be another map that will pop up, and it's called a temporary evacuation point. So what it will do is it'll show you where those temporary evacuation points are, where you would drive in, and if you had to be sheltered, they would guide you to either a congregate shelter or a hotel shelter that the County of Ventura has contracted with. So this link here on vcemergency.com, especially during a fire, will give you all of the updated information that you'll need for an incident. Now, if you, let's do something else, Jay. I wanted to show everybody what that high-low siren is, because it's a really important tool, especially for our senior community. When you hear that siren, it means get ready to go. So if in the, in your search bar, in the Google search bar, if you want to just type in where it says VC emergency, put high-low siren, type in high-low siren. There you go. Scroll down and let's see if they have it with Ventura County. Okay, well, this is Napa, and this was Placer and El Dorado actually used this during the latest fire, the Caldor fire. So if you click on the YouTube video, it kind of shows you what it sounds like. Hopefully your sound will come on. It's a very distinct siren. Can you hear it? I
Yes.
can't hear it.
Oh, now we can.
I can't. But does it sound like a European style siren is what you're saying?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
But it's a very distinct siren. It's a very distinct sound
Sure.
on the police car, and the lights are different as well. The lights will flash different. So for those that can't see, that for those that have hearing impairments, they will be able to see that the lights are different. And so they've been doing a education campaign on that. So when we're able to meet in person next time, I'll see if I can actually get one of the sheriff's department vehicles over so that they can show you what that looks like live.
So I take it campus squad cars don't have that?
Is Curtis still on?
I
Sergeant?
see he's there, but he's muted.
Yeah, I'm still here. We do not have these high-low sirens right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a quick follow-up on your last question before I have to unfortunately log off. Sorry to interrupt, Maggie.
Okay.
We still do have the ability to chalk tires if necessary. We have also started a new system where we can do it through photographs and time stamping of things. However, we don't go around and usually actively look for vehicles to try to chalk for 72 hours. It's usually more of an resident call-in for us to investigate that. Just to follow up with backup with my previous conversation.
Thank you, Curtis.
Sorry about that.
That's
okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We tag team a lot. So anyways, some of the other things that we're involved in is, like I said, it's just been the last 18 months, everything COVID, the university was shut down. And then once we came back online on August 23rd, the first 2-3 weeks have been nonstop with COVID exposures, some cases on campus, and tracking and monitoring, standing up the testing sites and also the vaccine sites. So I want to let everybody know our next vaccine clinic is going to be on September 23rd from 10 to 4. It's in El Dorado Hall. University Glen residents are welcome. It's a Pfizer vaccine. All you need to do is register, and there's a registration page. If you go back to the csuci.edu, if you go back to that webpage, to the front forward facing page, when you type in csuci.edu, that page. If you type in, vaccine, and you click on that link, it will come to this link, another link where you can register for a vaccine appointment. So it says vaccine appointment registration. And then you'll go to September 23rd. And you'll be able to register for her vaccine, and it's free. So those of you that are interested in getting your first dose, you can sign up and get a dose. Rite Aid Pharmacy and Camarillo are the vendors that are doing this for us. And if you get a first dose on September 23rd, they'll give you a card which will tell you the date for your second dose, and you can go right to Rite Aid in Camarillo, because at this time right now we don't have any other clinics set up, but you can go to Rite Aid and you can get your second dose. So that's been keeping us quite busy. We're also, of course, in constant contact with Ventura County Public Health and California Public Health. We talk to them every week, and we're starting to kind of ramp up different activities, not next Monday, but the following Monday. We'll be doing our housing building evacuations. So we're going to start doing those again in a COVID realm, which is a staggered type evacuation. And we'll also be evacuating town center. So Jake, I'll give you the date and time for that, of when we'll be doing the drill in town center. Okay. And the drill shouldn't take any longer than like 10 minutes. So if you hear the fire alarms going off, that's what's happening. We're having a drill. But like I said, I will make sure that you all get the dates for that. Also, this is Emergency Preparedness Month. I can't stress enough for everyone, just in the event of an emergency and evacuation, to make sure you have a go bag ready to go with your medications, your pet supplies, everything. I have a personal story about preparing for an emergency, especially the fire. So I have a cabin in Tahoe that backs up to Gun Barrel. That's a ski run at Heavenly Valley. And we were right in the middle of the Calder fire. So as of last week, before they got it somewhat contained, semi-contained, the fire was literally 3 miles from our cabin. So my whole neighborhood there off of Pioneer Trail was evacuated, mandatory evacuation. They had embers that were the size of a quarter and about a 1/4 inch thick that were coming from a mile away that were dropping down on our cabins. Luckily, my husband wasn't too happy about this on our vacation, the end of June, but we did all of our brush clearance. We did our defensible space clearance, cleaned up 25 bags worth of pine needles, and watered down the dirt. And our cabin is a log cabin, so we had to water down the logs and get them soaked. Luckily, I'm glad that we did that, because the Tamarack fire was just about to come over the Heavenly Mountain, and it didn't, thank God. But then the Caldor fire broke out. So having all of that brush clearance and those pine needles picked up probably kept our place from and our trees from catching fire, because we had done all of that pine needle pickup and everything. So on the flip side of that, we were confident that there was a possibility the fire was going to burn our places up. So I was lucky enough to have some of our Ventura County fire folks and Ventura County sheriff folks go into the cabin and get out some family photos and some oil paintings from artisans that are friends of mine up there that painted some paintings, and just little things that, you know, you can be replaced. Those are things I want you all to think about, just in case and what if. The most important thing was to make sure that you had your medications. My neighbors across the street, they have underlying health problems, and they had to leave so quickly, they weren't able to get enough medication to evacuate. They only had 3 days of medication, and they were evacuated for almost 2 weeks. So those are just things to think about. It's Emergency Preparedness Month. Be aware of that. And then in October is Earthquake Preparedness Month. The Great Shakeout is October 21st at 10:21 a.m. So if any of you are interested in having some type of little drill, Jake, in your office, and drop, cover, and hold on, we will be doing our drop, cover, and hold on, testing the loudspeakers on campus. Some of you might hear that. This is a great shakeout, and it'll have a little summary of what the Great Shakeout is, and it says now drop, cover, and hold on. So you might hear that come over campus through the loudspeakers on October 21st. So that's all I have tonight. I don't want to take up too much time. Does anybody have any other questions or anything they have for me?
Thank you very much. We appreciate. Oh, we have a question. What time on October 21st?
10:21 a.m.
Okay. No, we appreciate being included and being updated and reminded of all that we are supposed to be doing to be ready to evacuate in either case, earthquake or fire.
Well, thank you for having me. And, you know, I'm always available. If any of you have any questions or you want additional information on anything, just let me know. I can see if I can contact the Sheriff's Department in a couple of months, and like when things kind of slow down for them too in November, and see if they are able to come by and show you what that high-low siren looks like and the lights.
That would be appreciated, and if we could set them up kind of in the middle of the neighborhood so that some of our senior folks who might really need to be able to hear it,
right,
can figure out if they can.
That's a really good idea. So yeah, let's put that on plant that seed, and I'll see what I can do.
And we think ground is actually going to get broken on the 32 acres in the next couple of months.
Mhm.
So it's not too late to begin the conversation of the adjustments we're all going to have to make when we have another large tranche of people joining the neighborhood in a couple of years.
Right.
Or a year, potentially even within the year. I don't know that the build is going to take that long.
Okay. Yes, we can definitely relook at those evacuation maps and update them.
Right. It's the vehicle count that Tom was asking you about, that we
Right.
think we're going to have to make substantial changes, a lot more apartments, a lot denser population in the new development than in the existing Glen.
We're going to double.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to expand any of the roadways to get out either. The ingress and egress are going to stay the same.
So those of us in the neighborhood who've been at this for too many years to count now have been arguing all along that there is an egress need that we need to be surfacing. So any help you can can give us to begin making the case to the county and the state that we have, when kids are on campus, kids, adults, when students are on campus, we have a population that is definitely not supported by our pathways away from danger.
I understand. I'll do it. I'll do what I can, but because believe me, I mean, we're going to need extra hands too to be able to evacuate a whole nother set of folks up in the new area. So,
well, right. So I think we just have to begin putting our political chops on and saying, who do we have to be lobbying in order to get on the list, to get the resources to do what needs to be done now that we know that we're through all the bureaucratic hurdles and the 32 acres is going to happen.
okay. Well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, one of the other things I was going to mention to you is that I believe it's on vcemergency.com or Ventura County Recovers. Anyway, they're doing an emergency operations plan community meeting tonight. It actually started at 6, but there's another one next Wednesday. They tell us that it's geared towards Simi Valley, but it's all the same information. So if you're interested in that and the September 23rd county town hall, Jake, I can send you the link and then people can click into it if they'd like to be.
Yeah, send it to me and I'll push it out to the community.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you both, because we're doing our level best to try to better educate the community, because as we go to the new rules about especially defensible space in the neighborhood, there are a lot of potential changes coming that folks need to understand the rationale behind. And the more they can understand about the emergency planning and the danger that's out there potentially, the better they'll understand the accommodations we're going to be forced to make over time, over the next 3 to 4 years.
Yes, because if you recall during the Springs fire, the fire came over that area. If you remember, it came right through that area first. So I think it would be a really good idea to make sure that we really push, fire prevention when those folks move into that area.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when it came to just across the street from my house, it had already been to visit the 32 acres.
Exactly. Yes.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, everyone, Jake, do you have anything else?
Nope. I appreciate you coming on, Maggie. Much appreciated.
Sorry about my camera, but I had a really bad hair day anyway today. So.
Okay.
We would not.
Thank you.
We would not have judged. We would not have judged.
All right, everyone. Have a great night. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Is Steve Offerman with us this evening?
Yeah.
I don't see him.
I don't see him. We're going to email him and see whether he's thinking about it or not. So I'm not
Okay,
sure.
well, why don't we proceed to the landscape update while we wait to figure out if he's with us?
Okay.
Hello.
Lázaro.
Lazaro.
Thank you so much for having us. We were able to hear great information, so that was great. Tonight I have with me Jose Diaz again. He's gonna be giving a quick update on where we stand with the refurbishing at the apartments, and then we also have joining by phone Eric. And so anything that relates to any landscape maintenance activities, Eric is able to jump in there. And also joining us today is my boss, Scott Godfrey. He's joining via phone, so we asked him to join us so he can just listen in. But I think it's a great situate. Since we were on the conversation of fire protection, one of the things that I wanted to give a quick update on is the tomorrow, Jake, myself, we're gonna be meeting with Larry Williams. So we're gonna go ahead and review the additional brush clearance that we had to that was pointed out by him during his inspection. So we were able to complete that, and so hopefully we are compliant tomorrow, and we can kind of put that behind us. So that's one thing that we were able to tackle. I know that a bunch of trees also were removed that were pointed out. So I'm sure Jake has that information as well. So that's kind of on the fire brush clearance side of things. We were also able to do a big push on irrigation, providing Jake all the irrigation maps, which I think I already posted for anybody that has an interest to know what that is. And so that's public and available to the community. Lately, we also did a big push in providing Jake. We had an agreement to kind of provide a quarterly irrigation schedule so that we know that we are using the water in an effective way. So that's kind of the plan, to make sure that we keep the community up to date on our watering practices and all that kind of stuff. And so those are the two things that I wanted to talk about tonight. And with that being said, I will turn it over to Jose so that he can give us an update, unless you guys have any questions about brush clearance or irrigation.
I'd just like to add that the irrigation schedule has also been uploaded to the website as well.
Thank you. I know that Larry wanted you to go way far into what I think is not our property to do the brush clearance. Do you have any sense of how much you were kind of off our ranch and onto the Cal State Channel Islands ranch?
I don't have a really good idea. I just we did our best to kind of handle the ones that he pointed out that were closer, because he was using his device to measure the 100 feet from the building. So that's kind of what we focused on, and so we'll see tomorrow. I'm hoping that that was good enough, and if not, we'll have to make sure.
Well,
at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we are compliant and that he's on our side, because we don't want to have him on our. We don't want to be enemies with him.
well, I mean, there were some pretty massive changes that happened to that hillside over there. I mean, the palms being gone is an amazing set of changes. But Jake, I mean, you implied when we walked that area that our boundaries were much closer than Larry was telling us we needed to clear. And
Yeah, what I was going on was that in the past, when the brush clearance was handed off to me from the university, that those were the parameters that were given. And I don't know what conversations Larry Williams had with Jason Hughes, regarding some of those trees and things, but definitely when we walked it and he put his laser on it, the 100 foot mark was beyond what we had understood our responsibility was.
so
And
do we have a clear boundary for the Glen anywhere?
I brought up the question with in my meeting with Lori Nichols, based on what Tom brought up, which was a very valid question during our meeting with Larry Williams, is, because Larry Williams commented it had to do with where the property line was, and that owners were responsible up to their property line, and then the other owner would be responsible for the remainder. And so what was brought up was, is that the university and the site authority's responsibility beyond the plots of the individual homes in University Glen? And so that is something that we've asked the question, and we're pursuing an answer. Right now, we don't have an answer to that.
Okay, so I think it's actually a very important answer, because as I went back and did some research after our meeting, and he had said, and Larry had said those words to us, I verified that the actual rule is that we as a neighborhood are only responsible to our property line. Now, we want to be good citizens and responsible citizens, and we don't want to put ourselves in danger by not doing the 100 feet. But surely there is a cost sharing involved here if we have done the clearance, and and half of that, or a third, 2/3, whatever the distinction is, it seems to me that there is a cost sharing issue here. Get the job done because it needs to be done when there are resources to do it, but then we need to recognize the cost sharing. So
Understood.
so
Yeah.
if I need, is it the sense of the HAC that if I needed to put a letter to that effect in writing, that would be all right with everyone?
Sure. I think maybe a simple way to start is to go to the tax assessor's plat map, because I did take a look at it before we had that meeting. And again, it looks like, and it shows where Glen stops, and where beyond that it's called open space. I assume the open space is not our problem. That's university problem. And it looked, just using a judgment, the pathway that goes along that creek bed is probably right at the edge of the property of Glen. So everything beyond that is not our problem from a financial perspective. The work needs to get done, but this is kind of a bag age.
Okay,
I think you guys should
I will take it back to the bag.
slice hairs and look where the boundary is between Glen and open space, and say, all this cost of doing all this work is not ours. So a letter, I don't know, but someone should do a quick confirmation of where Glen's property line ends along that creek. And the plat map lays it out pretty well. You gotta get a measuring tape and do stuff.
Got it. And I can talk with facility services and request a plat map of it, and shows where the property lines are for our individual homes and apartments.
Yeah, we don't need an official survey. I mean, you can just do a rough, quick
Right, but where
line of sight stuff and go, okay,
Right, but somewhere it needs to show what the plots are that people own and what we don't own. And
Right,
that I would get, that I would, have you
Yeah.
seen that? Are you saying you've seen
Doesn't
that?
the county has that data, don't they, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, the
Okay.
plat map shows, like Toby's place. Toby's been pretty vocal about work. His parcel ends pretty much with the wall of his home.
Mhm.
But then Glen still has property beyond that going towards the creek for a short distance, and then it's called open space. And that's all in the county tax parcel map book. Just need to pull
Okay.
out the section that covers that whole creek area. And
I can look at it tomorrow.
Thanks. Just would like to, could we add this to next month's bag agenda, please, sir?
Sure.
Thank you.
Those maps are online. You can pull them offline, because I do that on a regular basis. On ventura.org.
Thank you.
All right. I think it's my turn now.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Sure. I just want to give a quick update on the phase 1 refurbishing we completed the final section, which was the apartments along Cathedral Cove. So that is 100% done at this point. So phase 1 is completely done. I will continue to monitor the plant health and the watering and tone down the watering as needed. But for now, the phase 1 is completely done.
Good deal.
And Jake, in terms of the budget,
In terms of the budget, what I can offer was that in phase 1, the total budget for it was $162,616.12, which is about a third. And at that point, we had 207. That was for 207 doors plus the roundabouts. And so with that, the remaining budget, which is $340,000, it's about 2/3 remaining. And from a number of doors standpoint, the one thing that shifted a little bit was with the phase 1, that was 207 doors, and that included 130 doors for the courtyards of the apartments. The apartments chose to, rather than do the courtyards at Cathedral Cove and the courtyards at Frenchie's Cove, to just do Cathedral Cove, which is only 100 doors. And so we will be paying 100 doors with management fee of the total budget. Mission Hills will be paying the difference, that basically the 30 doors that we didn't use, that they chose not to use during this time, although they used the entire budget for their coves as though they had 130 doors, but so they did more work than was in our budget to do. And so they are paying the differential between 100 doors and 130 doors plus management fee. It's like $79,000 as opposed to it's about $18,000 less than the $79,000. We'll pay about $60,000, which is per door. It's $569.94 per door.
at quite honestly, I didn't follow that very well, but
So we're right on target. And
are we?
everything.
Because it sounds kind of like we're not. If we've spent 162K and our total budget was 340, we're
No,
more
our
than a
total
third.
budget is 500,000.
Okay,
The remaining
the remaining is 340.
is 340. Yeah, it comes out to 487. You take the 162, and there's a $25,000 contingency in there too. So we're
good.
very close.
Yep.
Now, to be upfront with all of the fire stuff, we're reevaluating. I can say a little bit more about that in my report, but at the present time, we would like to stay on schedule regarding the second phase, but we are not going to do anything that would make us to spend money twice regarding any of this defensible space issue. And so that is what we are working on. I have talked with Lazaro and Randy Spitzer, the annual tree removal and trimming project manager, and they are putting together, hopefully by the end of the month, a list of trees that fall within the 5-foot defensible space, which Larry Williams, when we met with him, talked about needing to be removed. And so we're going to see how many that really is. I don't, have Brightview tell us kind of that number. And then we can start talking about what we may be able to do with phase 2 refurbishing. And so we spend our money wisely.
We need a community conversation before we start cutting down trees.
We will.
So
But first we need to know the extent that we're talking about.
But
what the scope is.
are there any other landscaping questions? Because we are, as Malia points out to me, well behind schedule at the moment. Yes, Tom?
Right, just one. So our ground cover, it seems clear that the use of mulch going forward is a fool's errand.
It-
Because it's very clear, even right now, there are regulations that say we shouldn't be using it.
The regulation that is in place that we need to follow is standard 515, which went into effect November of 2020 for us, which is less than a year ago. And that talks about in the defensible area that no mulch or wood chips shall be put. It needs to be hardscaped.
Right. So are we stopping that practice?
Yes.
So Carolyn, one of the
forward, we are.
last, Carolyn, you're muted. Carolyn, you're muted.
Why did they fill the area right by my house full of wood chips? They didn't even plant any plants there. And they just like dumped piles of wood chips.
I don't know.
Neighbors'
Let me
So-
come over and look at it because when I asked Gripeview about it, they commented, the refurbishing people said they had not been there since they had done your front. So I don't know.
Well,
Are you around tomorrow?
I will be around. I mean, it's easy to see in clear view. The point is, why did they put it there?
Can I ask that we move forward at this point because we're so far behind and we resolve this issue offsite as a sidebar?
I emailed about it 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay, we'll talk about it, Carolyn.
Okay.
So what I'd like, thank you. Thank you. What I'd like to do at this point is push the proposed rules discussion to our new business at the bottom of the meeting to see how fast we get through our committee reports and begin with committee reports. Congratulations to the social committee for a successful movie night.
Good deal.
All right, so I'm going to very, very quickly go through the upcoming social committee events. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody that came out to our first outdoor movie earlier this month. It was super fun. I think we probably had close to 100. It looked like a bunch of people. So I don't know. I thought it was close to 100 people. I don't know what everybody else's guesstimate was, but it was really well supported and super, super fun. So looking forward to future events that are like that. To that end, our Halloween plan is to have a movie night on October 30th. That's so going in line with having the movies the last Saturday evening of the month. Like we had the photo backdrops at the Tot Lot last year, we will have the photo backdrops up all weekend, but over near where we're going to have the movie, which I believe we are keeping at the same location as the last movie, which is the Greenbelt area at the corner of Smugglers and Frenchies. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Smugglers and Frenchies, right? Okay. So hopefully you'll be able to come by and participate in that and take pictures before you go trick-or-treating. We are also going to be having home costume and decorating contests, but we need more volunteers for Halloween weekend in order to make that possible. If we don't get extra hands to help, then we're probably going to have to skip the all of the contests. So that's what I have for Spirit Committee, and that's it.
Thank you. Landscape?
Yeah, so I don't have much to add. The committee has not met since last month. I just got hold of or reviewed some of the work order activity for the month of August. Work order activity increased dramatically in the month of August from July. We went from 6 work orders in July to 38 in August. 21 of those 38 are still open, or were still open as of September 1st. So things jumped up dramatically. I don't know why, I just haven't had a chance to look at it. Carolyn is now co-chair of the committee, so going forward, she can carry on the conversation for the committee on my, better than me. So we'll talk about that together, Carolyn, and let you represent the landscape committee in these meetings. Not much else. We're waiting to hear about phase 2 and the new county ordinances that are going to affect us. And in terms of irrigation, there's quite a bit of work to do, I think, Jake, in terms of sprinkler heads that are not working properly. And we'll work on that in the next couple of weeks.
Good.
Gabrielle is out of town and not here, and I don't know if either Kevin or Carolyn wants to say anything about the garden. I assume you're still progressing to do the expansion, and I know you've done another pass at some rule stuff that you would like to have input into that process, but that's all I know. Okay. All right, finance and budget. Kevin, do you want to talk or shall I?
I can talk about the tot lot portion if you want.
Sure.
So we did discuss with Kennedy Wilson the current tot lot project, and unfortunately the route that we had been working on, the design and kind of landscaping, natural playscaping, is not going to fit within our budget. So we are going to reconvene our committee, which is open to. So anybody listening tonight that wants to join our tot lot committee, we'll put that out there. We'll have Jake send out the Zoom when we set up that meeting. But we're going to be looking at, once again, a little bit more traditional tot lot play structures with a playground company to get it within budget and get it done this time. So we're not at square one, but we are back to the drawing board a little bit.
Well, we were $75,000 over budget with the more innovative plan, and all the corporate clout brought to the table could not get the price anywhere closer to our 125K budget. So it's basically where we are, and it's an important piece of where we are, because we at the BAG meeting had to acknowledge that there are no grant funds to handle the COVID-induced overage in our budget for the last fiscal year of $43,868. And the BAG voted to recommend that those dollars, they have to come from somewhere. And when you have a budget overage, the only place it can come from is reserves. And so the recommendation is that it be taken out of the common area reserves. This is why doing the budget carefully and making sure that we can anticipate increases in costs that are going to occur during the year is so important, because every time this happens, we erode our reserve positions even further than they're currently eroded. So it's a sad day when I have to tell you that that's what had to happen, that there are no other resources, and that's what that is what will occur when the final audited numbers are published.
Sandy, could I stop just for a second, back up just a little bit? So the tot lot work you guys are doing, I'd just like to interject a thought again. As we approach the budget cycle, I would like the tot lot committee to consider adding probably a smaller tot lot on the north end of the community. I think we're getting shortchanged on this end of the community, and we got to work with Kennedy Wilson, but there's a very nice area right beside the pool that would work well for a small tot lot. So
I think you make a very excellent case, and it is it is on my watch list for trying to figure out how we fund that, and potentially if you could show us the space and we could get dimensions for it, then maybe we could at least get some pricing as a piece of what we're doing to get the other tot lot referred.
I'll share with you, roughly $40,000 to $50,000 will build a nice little tot lot in that area. I've already run some numbers by someone that you probably all talked to. So that's the kind of dollar amount we're talking about as you approach the budget cycle.
Okay.
See if you can figure it out so the north end of the community gets served equally as the south end does. That's
I
my
have a comment. I have a comment.
Yeah.
I don't know who decided that we can use reserve funds for expenses, but reserve funds are not to be used for expenses in general, but it just seems like, well, we just ran out of money, so we're going to go into the reserves, which means when it comes time to replace the tot lot, there won't be any money in the budget. The sub-ground lease says that if we go over our budget, that every single owner has to pay their share to make that up. So we should be getting a bill for $43,000 divided by each door. And that's the way it should go, instead of taking it out of the reserves. That is the proper way to do it. And I don't know who just decides we're just going to spend the reserves to use for extra expenses when we go over budget. That's not the purpose of the reserves.
What is that indeed in our ground sublease?
Yes,
I don't recall that.
It's in the ground sublease, and it also says if we go under a budget, we're supposed to get a refund, but we've never had a refund in all these years. But it says if we go under, we pay extra, and if we go over, we pay extra, and if we go under, we're supposed to get a refund. And I honestly don't understand how the COVID could be over $43,000 when everything was shut down, the pools were shut down. It just doesn't make any sense, but I guess that's Kevin doing that.
No, we had a $59,000 staff expense for keeping the pools open to the extent that we did. And we
Well,
are
somebody
actually,
should have told the people it was going to cost them that much money before.
it was discussed in the HAC.
And everybody agreed to pay $59,000. How much is that per door?
I don't have a clue, Carolyn. You're
Well-
probably closer to a calculator than I am because you're sitting in your office.
Well, I mean, I don't recall.
So I am,
We were going to
this,
have to
this
pay
process,
9,000
it-
divided by, how many
So-
doors are there?
600 some. I think.
672.
672, okay, 59,000 divided by 672. That's $87 per door. So just send us a bill for $87 or $88 and stop using the reserves for expenses. That's not the purpose. And I think it's illegal.
No, standard
If
HO,
it was
standard
a
HOAs do
regular
that.
HOA, it would be illegal.
No,
And if they want to collect money for the reserves, then they need to use it for the reserves. That's my opinion.
yeah, no,
Send us a
Oh.
bill.
I do not disagree with your thrust on this, Carolyn, but I will tell you that it is the practice of the site authority to do the accounting as they're asking to do it again. And
Right.
if you would.
It's the
if
practice
if
of
it
the
is-
site
if it is the
authority to
sense
use
of
the reserves.
HAC, if it is the sense of the HAC that you would like us to present this alternative to the site authority,
Well,
I'm certainly willing to go make the case if that's what needs to be done.
I agree with Carolyn. If it's in the ground sublease, we should follow the ground sublease. I wasn't aware it was in there.
It's in there. And I think when we go, we get
So
a
Carolyn,
under
please
budget,
send-
we get a refund.
Please send me the reference.
I can
Thanks.
do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But I
Before we move
totally
on,
object to
So
excuse
the last item dealt with at the bag. was water usage in the Glen. And we had a report from facilities of water and usage and water rates. Yes, Malia?
Sorry, before we move on to that, I have a question about the tot lot. If this is becoming a bag issue now, should I not be dealing with this at the CAG?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Well, hold on. If we want to put in
No.
a second tot lot, shouldn't that go to the CAG?
Well, I think we have to get the budget for it first.
If the topic were to be introduced, shouldn't it end up going there?
Only
Okay, that's all right. Let's
we
move
have
on.
a land use issue that would end up going to the CAG. But first of all,
Okay.
we need to know we have the money to ask the land use question.
Okay,
I agree.
we can move on.
Okay. So water usage was also dealt with at the BAG meeting. And we are, as a community, in the Glen, apartments and single family and townhomes, using less water than we have used historically, which is a good thing. It was discussed that reduction in water usage is probably due to the refurbishing done in the apartments by Kennedy Wilson multifamily, because they've paid real attention to going to low flow plumbing fixtures in the apartments as they refurb each one. Two issues were raised. One, how do we make such opportunity available to our homeowners, and is there a program to do that? So we raised questions on that issue, and I think that's, if anybody knows of anything and can put us on a track towards programs that would help homeowners do this kind of water conservation retrofitting inside their homes, that would be useful and helpful. The second issue is that we have the ability inside the Glen to individually meter. And there is a cost, we don't know how small or how large, to do that individual metering. But because Kennedy Wilson multifamily does believe that the water savings that we're seeing really are attributable to their capital improvements, they are very interested in having that happen. So I think we have an issue that, as the individual homeowners, we need to begin to grapple with around how, if this expense is foisted upon us, how do we avoid having to pay for it as a neighborhood, when I don't think our homeowners particularly want individual monitoring of our water and changing the way we handle water and bill for water. People would be direct billed once we do this for water and sewer. It's a fairly good sized change to what we do. It takes the money out of our CAM budget, puts it on individual homeowners, but we have to get past this initial capital cost of actually getting the meters installed. There is substantial motivation, though, behind doing it, because it gives us a way to monitor and control as we enter into an even more severe drought situation. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's out there on the horizon, and that it's an issue that we're going to have to grapple with.
And it should be about $100 a door to put a meter in.
You think that's all it is?
Labor and meter, yep. Right at the house,
Well,
right at the entrance.
That
I've had
is
it done.
that's much smaller than the number that I heard, that I had in my head for doing this.
Okay.
So we would, if at $100 a door, we're only looking at what, $27,000?
I don't believe that.
Had it done.
Tom seems to be speaking from experience. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the CAG report.
So very, very quickly, and then I'm going to jump off to get my little one ready for bed. I put most of this in the newsletter already, but if you haven't already noticed, Chapel Street, there's a portion of it that is closed. It will likely be closed through the end of the year for replacement of the hydronic bolt. The Keller Williams 32-acre project for the additional homes. They're still in negotiations. However, it sounds like they're going to be ready to sign subground leases by the middle of this month. So any day now. If you, I'm sorry. Oh, that's
Kennedy Wilson, the 32-acre, right? Not Keller Williams.
That's sorry. I always say Keller Williams and I mean Kennedy Wilson, so I apologize for that. The Casa Pacifica event at CSUCI is on the 26th of this month from 12 to 5. It's their Casa Pacifica Angels Wine, Food, and Brew Fest. So if you have interest, get your tickets now, because I know they said they were selling out quickly. I also put this in the newsletter. If you have interest in complaining to the local powers that be about the potholes along Camarillo Street from Lewis through to the bridge, I provided phone numbers in the newsletter, but if you did not see those or don't have the newsletter and you need them again, please feel free to reach out, and I will also drop them in the chat before I hop off. And last thing I wanted to share was that CSUCI has their own pages on social media. If you have not added them, it's a great way to see what's going on at the campus. For example, they have a paint event, and mine closed out unfortunately before I could get back to it, but they have a paint event coming up on September 30th. It's paint night. Join us for flower pots and canvas painting. In my experience, any of those events are always open up to the UGlen residents. So that'll be from 6:30 to 8:30. I think you're supposed to RSVP somehow, but usually I know that they indicate that they will also have 100 grab and go kits available. So if you have interest in walking down there, I just found out about this event today. But again, on your social media, if you look on Instagram or Facebook, they do have their own page. So it's a nice way to stay in touch with what's going on down at the campus. And that is all I have. And I am dropping those phone numbers into the chat now.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I got to hop off. Have a great evening. I already voted on the PIA, so I think I'm all set. Have a good one.
Thank you. Jake.
I think most everything that I was going to bring up has been covered. The one thing that I wanted to add was that at the site authority meeting on August 9th, the solar panel protocol for townhomes was approved by the site authority board. And as soon as I get a copy of it from the site authority personnel, I will post it on the website, so that I know people have been waiting for that who are townhouse owners. So those are kind of the things that pretty much is the only other thing that I need to add, I believe. If anybody thinks of some blind spot I'm missing, let me know and I'll speak to it. Okay.
With everybody's indulgence for going over our time by about 5 minutes, I'd like to now go back to the progress report I've written on the rules process, if that's everyone's agreeable.
Are you going to have public comment tonight?
Yes. Have you, do you mind waiting 5 more minutes to start public comment?
Oh, sure.
That's great. Yes, we're going to get to public comment. I'm hoping to race through this rather quickly. So what I'd like to do is begin an update on where we are on the rules by saying thank you to all of the people who have worked on this process over the last 2+ years, beginning with the new dog park rules and continuing to the material posted in June for public comment. Many hands contributed to what was done. That includes those of you who took the time to submit public comments or respond to the survey conducted by Maisha Olson. In the public comments, over 60 issues were raised, but many began by questioning the authority and timing of the HAC's move to review and recommend changes to the rules. So let me provide some background. The ground sublease grants the authority to the HAC to make recommendations for any amendments to these regulations that the HAC believes necessary or desirable. The ground sublease Article 5, 6.e. Rules discussions in the HAC typically begin with community issues. For example, behavior at the pools, behavior at the dog park, and especially the need for a new sign and new rules to deal with the small dog area when that happened. The desire of many to have personal potted plants outdoors and the desire of others to not see excessive numbers of potted plants. Both views which conflict with the ground sublease requirement that only patio furniture and barbecues are allowed to be visible in the common areas. A desire for some level of personalization of our outdoor space without APIA, a public information application, being required. Noise that interferes with the ability of folks to work or quietly enjoy their home, ground sublease Article 3, 3.2. And the need for a process to handle neighbor-to-neighbor conflicts. Dealing with similar issues repeatedly led the 2019-2020 HAC to establish an ad hoc rules committee that met with varying membership and leadership until the spring of 2021. As the committee did its work and both chairpersons engaged with other involved groups, a goal evolved to recommend a common set of requirements that were as closely aligned as possible across the entire neighborhood, especially with the amenity rules for facilities within buildings owned by Kennedy Wilson multifamily, but used by all. The document, this is the context for the 2+ year effort that was undertaken. The document presented for public comment in June is a combination of existing rules that were not being changed and new rules that attempt to be more comprehensive and to provide community members with more, not less, choice. It is clear from the comments that this objective was not achieved in the eyes of the responders. The most frequent comment across both surveys was the total rejection of the document. That action returns us to the status quo, which contains the second highest comment, that there should not be, quote, no loitering, unquote, rules in the neighborhood. These desires of the responders to work at a cross purpose with each other, and this is a frequent issue within the data that I've pulled together from all of the responders. So I would like to propose that we hold the public meeting we have been discussing to review the existing document and the responses that we have and forge a way forward that includes an additional community review. This review should be constructed in a way that engages a larger percentage, more than the 17%, if there's no duplication, of folks who actually responded in the first rounds of responses. After that review, a new final document would be created and submitted by the HAC. Excuse me. After the comments are integrated into the document, a new final document would be created and submitted to the HAC for approval, and then submitted to the site authority staff for their final review. And if approved, the site authority staff would submit to the site authority board for action. So what I'd like is a motion to schedule the 1-hour meeting to review the responses in more detail with the community, and then a working session to map out the process. Is anyone willing to, the person who was going to make that motion is no longer with us. So is anyone else willing to make said motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Tom. Carolyn, you're muted.
You're still muted, Carolyn.
I don't think 1 hour is enough for a community meeting.
I'm hoping that just sharing the report on the responses and getting people's feedback But if you think it will take longer than that, we could potentially
Are we
schedule.
going to have it outside somewhere? Are we going to be looking at each other in person? I think we can do better if we're not on Zoom.
Where we sit right now with the Delta variant and the county's additional restrictions that are in place, we could maybe have an outdoor meeting, but any indoor meeting would have to be with social distancing and masks. So Zoom might be the most effective method to have said meeting.
I disagree.
Kevin, you're shaking your head. Tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Zoom has its pros and its cons. I think working together in small groups, you can share a screen and take notes and do those things, but if in larger groups, it becomes pretty hard to manage. So I agree with Carolyn, actually, that if we can get together outside, perhaps in an outdoor space, we could even use the town center area, perfectly allowable by public health to have meetings outside.
So I have proposed at varying points that we actually try to use the parking lot in front of Jake's office, with the ledge being a place where speakers could be so that they would be seen. I don't know how many people we will get. In a smaller venue, we could just all sit around an outdoor space, either in the community park or in on what we're calling the grassy knoll. It's at Smugglers, where we've done the movies. Those are places where we might be able to do same.
Would anyone want to?
We do now have an amplifier and a microphone that would enable us to be able to do that, if that's how you'd like to proceed.
Would anyone want to venture to guess how many residents would show up?
I think a lot would show up. And I think I like Kevin's idea of all those picnic tables are down there in the town center. We can sit there on the weekend.
Saturday, Saturday mid-morning. That's probably that'd be the best time.
There's not enough picnic tables for 50 or 75 people.
They can bring chairs.
Okay, all right.
Bring lawn chairs.
Okay.
Well, if we're bringing long chairs, I think we might do better in a space where we're not in such a public space, so that when we set up our own microphone, et cetera, that speakers can be heard, but we're in a space that is more our space and not public space.
Okay,
I don't know if we're going to set up a microphone.
If I'm going to be heard across an outdoor space, I will certainly need one. I don't know. The rest of you may do a much better job at projecting than I do.
So I'll make a motion. We arrange for a meeting, details to be sorted out, but it be an outdoor meeting, inviting all residents, and venue to be determined, but outside.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And let me add to that motion, and the meeting be scheduled for 2 hours.
Okay.
I think that's about all anyone could tolerate anyway. So.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then I'd like to follow that meeting with a working session that's just us, to take the input from that session and actually build a process that guarantees that we engage a broader swath of the community in the final review process. So that commits us to one more meeting after this one in order to get that process in place before we then announce where we're headed to everybody, because I think it's important that we've talked about it a couple of times, but Malia had some pretty good suggestions for how we actually get people informed, and she and I have talked about maybe even if you return your survey or your response, that your name gets entered into a drawing and we give some kind of desirable prize to motivate people to actually respond. I think we have to do something to break through to the average UGLEN recipient. And we would basically be talking about the 272 households.
I would say you send them the bill for the COVID overage along with the rules and you'll get a response.
I do not think those two things should be handled together.
Let's go with public comment.
I would describe that as political malpractice, actually.
This is not political for me, but you need to get their attention.
I think we send them this straight up data. We give them multiple ways to get a hold of it. We try to motivate them to respond. And if they are not interested, they have voted that they are not interested. And that is a legitimate response on the part of a community member that I think we should respect.
Okay.
Okay, can we, I think Tina would like to make a public comment and we should not hold her up any further.
I am the public. How about that?
Welcome, public. It's so nice to see you.
So my public comment, and then I do want to make 2 quick comments, but I'll be very brief. You know, going back to the evacuation business, particularly now that if there's going to be groundbreaking, I didn't realize that actually is going to happen. It might be useful to ask the campus persons in charge or entities in charge to do somewhat of a time study and report to you, Glenn, you know, like what was the time? I know that the previous police chief who retired, I know that he came to talk to us faculty about the time that it took to evacuate and things like that. So I think it would be interesting. It would make me sleep better at night personally, but I think it would be interesting. And I think it might be a nice way to put this new development on their radar when you talk about in minutes, from the decision to evacuate to the minutes that it takes to evacuate in the current UGLEN and campus, should it happen during business hours, and then add that to the anticipated new amount of cars, you know, that they can calculate per units. And we have a lot of colleagues that can do all kinds of statistical estimations, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my public comment, that I think that would probably be a really good concrete data point.
Really appreciate that. We've been fighting this battle since the initial conversations happened about the 32-acre development and the density that they were proposing, 6 or 7 years ago now, that we're finally going to see realized. And the density is so beyond the original plan for that area that and the roadways created were based on the original plan that we've now blown past by at least 100%, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get a new lane, let's face it. But if we start to think about minutes, then at least what we have control over is that we need to roll back the evacuation order. And granted, you know, fires you can't control. I mean, it all depends on the wind. But at least if we have some baseline minutes, I think that would be a really sort of concrete, scientifically based way to go about it. So that was my public comment. However, I have 2 other comments, and I'd be so brief. The water meter, I love that idea. There are many of us that are very small households, and you know, we support the tot lots, we support all those things, we support the pool being for children and work around those hours. But when water becomes an issue, it would be nice not to subsidize, you know, families that use a lot more water than many others. So that was one comment. And then the last comment is just regarding microphones. You know, those of us that teach right now through Double Mask, you know, for $30 on Amazon, you can get those little mics that come like this, and with a little speaker, it does an amazing good job. I mean, you look like Madonna when you're doing it, but if you need if you need a mic for your event, That's a really low cost thing that comes very, very handy if you have relatives who are hard of hearing. So you get usage out of that way too. So those are my comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sticking with us for so long. Is there?
It's interesting. I mean, Zoom works for me because, you know, I probably wouldn't have the energy to sit through a meeting live because I work late. So this actually works for me. So I get to listen in.
Well, we will never stop broadcasting on Zoom, even when the day comes that we finally get to meet in person and have people in the room with us. We will continue to broadcast, and we field tested that last month, and I think successfully held a meeting with people remotely on Zoom and several of us in a room, and it really worked quite well. So we will not abandon this process.
What I want to say about the evacuation, which I think is very important. The new houses are going to be coming out at the third roundabout. We looked at those evacuation maps and we're supposed to be going out. The current homes are supposed to be leaving on Channel Islands on that route. There's no way we're going to get past that third roundabout with the traffic jam from the new homes. There's no way, because we're going to be sitting there waiting for them. That's pretty scary. And I remember trying to leave the campus in 2015. We couldn't get out of here. We could not leave.
Well, we couldn't get out of here the last time either. And once we got out, because the freeway was closed, Lewis was going nowhere. So we have a local issue, and then we have a broader county issue, and hopefully we can help focus county resources on these issues. And I could ask that Steve Offerman look at that for us for next month, if you'd like.
You know, back I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, when they were first talking about this new development, they had consultants who came in and did a traffic study on what the impact would be. So it'd be interesting to have them revisit that study. I remember sitting through that presentation and I just couldn't believe the numbers. It just didn't look right, but we need to look at it.
No,
Yes.
the people in the existing homes will be stuck. We can't get out because of campus, and we won't be able to get out at the third roundabout. It's a fact. Just think about it.
Seems pretty nutty.
Well, it was by all of us who tried to make this case at the point that this was going through the approval process with the fire marshals, et cetera. It was hard to believe that they were willing to accept the funny study that you're quoting, but they were, and there was no response to any of our attempts to challenge. So we find ourselves where we find ourselves at this point.
Okay, are we done?
No, we have to adjourn to property improvement request.